Let's begin by looking at the four key differences between the two accounts that Soloveitchik himself picks out, together with a brief account of his explanations of them. So the first distinction relates to the differences in the act of creation itself. In the first account, man is made b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God, while in the second, he's created from the dust of the earth. The second difference concerns the mandates given to each Adam. While Adam 1 is told to fill the earth and subdue it, Adam 2 is told to cultivate the garden and keep it. Now, how does Soloveitchik understand these differences? Soloveitchik sees the term image of God as referring to man's creativity. After all, what God is doing at this point is creating, and thus to be in the image of God would be for man himself to be a creator. For Soloveitchik, Adam 1 was blessed with great drive for creative activity and immeasurable resources for the realization of this goal, the most outstanding of which is the intelligence, the human mind, capable of confronting the outside world and inquiring into its complex workings. Moreover, God tells Adam 1 to use this intellectual ability to subdue nature, use his intelligence to control nature. Adam 1 is therefore not a philosopher, but a practical type, closest in character to the modern scientist who's able to understand the workings of the world through his creative intelligence in order to control it. As Soloveitchik puts it, Adam the First is interested in just a single aspect of reality and asks one question only: how does the cosmos function? He's not fascinated by the question, why does the cosmos function at all? Nor is he interested in the question, what is its essence? He's only curious to know how it works. So Adam the First is practical, concerned to dominate nature for his own purposes, and a good thing that is too. Soloveitchik equates this power-yielding creativity with dignity and majesty. Adam the First is majestic man. As Soloveitchik understands it, how much more dignified are we now that, for example, we can build hospitals and research cures to save lives, rather than helplessly succumb in our thousands to whatever plague sweeps humanity at a particular point. Clearly, we're more dignified. Note also that Adam the First can only be a dignified being if he's recognized as such by others. His majesty is something that has to be expressed and acknowledged by others in his creative successes. That's why Adam 1 is created as male and female, bringing us to the next set of distinctions. As Soloveitchik writes, man in solitude has no opportunity to display his dignity and majesty, since both are behavioral social traits. Adam the First was not left alone even on the day of creation. He merged into the world with Eve, and God addressed himself to both of them as inseparable members of one community. So this community of Adam 1 is a natural community, forged by people who naturally come together, given their shared interests in Adam the First's how questions. Primarily, how do we survive in a hostile world? Something that cannot be done if we're all individuals working alone for our own selfish needs. So to sum up at this point, Adam the First is aggressive, bold and victory-minded. His motto is success, triumph over the cosmic forces. What of Adam II? Adam 2, in contrast to Adam 1, is not told to control or subdue the earth. He's told to look after it. Adam II, therefore, takes the world as it is rather than manipulating it using mathematical formulae or scientific principles. And therefore, Soloveitchik tells us, Adam II is receptive and beholds the world in its original dimensions. He looks for the image of God not in the mathematical formula or the natural relational law, but in every beam of light, in every bud and blossom. So rather than asking practical questions like Adam 1, wanting to know how it all works, Adam 2 asks the more philosophical questions. Why did the world come into being? What's the meaning of it all? And who's behind it all, and indeed behind me at every step? Indeed, having had life breathed into him by God, Adam 2 lives in close union with God, which is why Adam II has an intimate relationship with God as Adonai, or rather, as he is known by his four-letter name, known as the Tetragrammaton, not just with God as he reveals himself indirectly through the laws of nature, as does Adam 1, which is to know God as Elohim. Nonetheless, created alone and from the dust of the earth, Adam too is a humble and lonely being who understands his separateness from everything else. He's lonely, not in a superficial manner, but existentially, understanding that his uniqueness can't be fully communicated. What he seeks, therefore, is not dignity, which involves recognition by others of your surface achievements, but redemption from his deep existential loneliness. Redemption, unlike dignity, is not something that requires recognition by others, external to oneself. Rather, cathartic redemptiveness, in contrast to dignity, cannot be attained through man's acquisition of control of his environment, but through man's exercise of control over himself. Soloveitchik has much to say about such a redemptive existence, which requires a humility that can accept defeat and surrender to God. Full redemption, though, requires companionship, and thus Eve has to be created out of Adam too. And this is a companionship, therefore, that's not natural, but that requires sacrifice, which is why Adam must give part of himself away to find companionship. It's a community forged around shared commitment to God rather than shared utilitarian interests, a covenantal community rather than a natural one. Adam too is lonely in a way that Adam 1's natural community of interests cannot alleviate. He's not in need of someone to help him dominate the world. He needs someone who can provide him with the sort of depth of communication found in, say, Buber's I-Thou relationship. His loneliness is existential and needs the in-depth experience provided by the covenantal community. Now, Soloveitchik's own descriptions of all these differences are far more developed than I can present here, and there's no substitute for reading the original piece, which is barely 100 pages. But hopefully this gives you a taste of the fact that we have here for Soloveitchik two very different types of beings set up by the Torah: the creative, majestic Adam the first, and the humble, submissive Adam the second.